Okay, today we are recreating this beautiful makeup look on Zendaya, once again by Ernesto Casillas. I actually wasn't gonna do this. I wasn't gonna do it because I was like, I can't make my personality just Zendaya's makeup looks by Ernesto. But then I posted on Instagram like a little questionnaire in my stories, and everybody wanted to see it. Everybody wanted to see it, basically. And Ernesto himself was like, do Z's look. So I am going to be doing an updated Marilyn look soon, but I figured we would start with this. So we're gonna get right into it. And once again, we're gonna be doing the full face. So I already prepped my skin. I just rinsed my face with a little bit of water this morning and then went in with my Anua 70 Plus Rice toner, just the toner, nothing else, because my face was already seeming like relatively hydrated. So obviously skin prep, like the skin is big for this look. You can see there isn't like heavy coverage. It's just like a lot of blush basically. So you wanna make sure that your skin is going to look like nice and flushed, not flushed, but nice and hydrated before you start going in with your products, okay? Always prioritize your skincare and getting to a place where you're like, oh, I'm happy with the way that this looks before I start going in with a bunch of makeup. Not that this is a bunch. Whatever, I'm gonna stop rambling, let's just do it. So I did watch Ernesto do this makeup on himself. I think I saw it on Reels, but I believe he posted it on Instagram as well. So I will link to that. Part of me kind of wishes that I didn't, just because now I feel like pressured to do it exactly the way that he did it. But I do have a better sense of like his placement and stuff. So I'm gonna be mixing House Labs, 1 pump of House Labs 030 Fair foundation with my with 1 pump of my Lisa Eldridge 2.5. I'm gonna mix this up on the back of my hand, and I'm gonna be applying this with a sponge, which I actually really appreciated that he used a sponge when he was applying it on himself, because I feel like a lot of makeup artists use brushes, and when it comes to foundation, I just prefer a sponge. So I felt a little bit like, okay, I'm not the only one still using a sponge out here. Okay, so I'm starting in the center of my face as always, where I have the most redness. Obviously we're gonna be strategic with our flushing. So you kind of wanna like even out all of the areas where you might already have redness. So that that doesn't pull the emphasis from the actual like flushing. But I'm gonna be using like a very small amount of this because her skin looked incredibly natural. And then I'm just gonna start pulling that out towards the outer perimeter of the face. So as always, you wanna be thinking about your foundation as a tone, like evener. You're evening the tone, you're sort of creating a base to work on. Are those earrings really distracting? You don't wanna be thinking about this in terms of like so much coverage, especially for this kind of a look. Okay, I just spent a little bit of time contouring my jawline, which has nothing to do with this look at all. So I didn't want to include it in this, but if that's something that like piques your interest and you want to watch a detailed video about how I do that, I'll pop it up here. I did a much more reduced version of it for this look. Now I'm gonna go in with my bronzer, and I'm actually gonna be using a bronzer that I tried recently. This is the CoverGirl True Blend Sun and Sculpt Bronzing Glow Serum. And I think this is perfect for this look because of how natural and I would say skin-like. It looks incredibly skin-like, and I mean, it's a serum, you know what I mean? So it's not like, this is not an overly glam look. This is very much a enhancement of your natural features. So I thought this would be perfect. This is in the shade Very Light 10. I would say, if anyone is curious, it's quite similar to the Makeup by Mario one. So use whatever you have. But yeah, I used it recently and I liked it. So I'm gonna pump, it has a doe foot, but I'm gonna pump a little bit on the back of my hand. And I'm gonna use my Refer 38 brush. So this has a little bit more of like a liquidy sort of finish to it. And I like this shade actually because it's not overly bronze, because I don't want anything that's going to pull focus from the blush. Like the blush is very much the hero. But I do want to do some shaping to the face. Okay, so your typical placement just around the hairline, essentially, sort of adding a little bit of color to the forehead, and then a little bit just around the cheekbones. So again, keeping this relatively close to the hairline. My hair was freshly bleached, so using the edge of that brush to really be careful. And then I'm just going to take whatever is left over to just kind of blend around the outer perimeter of the face so that everything looks very soft. So no harsh contours at all. Just soft placement of a little bit of warmth. You can see that difference there. A little bit more flat. We have a little bit of something going on over here, but it's not overly done. I'm not like trying to sculpt the cheekbones to the gods. You know what I mean? If you want to do that, then you should watch the white, the white makeup look that he did on her for the premiere in London, I think. Was this one for Paris? I don't remember. There have been so many amazing looks. Like, how do I keep track? Okay, very soft. And I don't think she has any bronzer on her nose. I can't tell if she has blush on her chin or if she has bronzer on her chin. I think I'm gonna put a teeny bit of bronzer on her chin. My chin. Like right here. She has this sort of like glow, this bronzy glow. But I would like to reserve the right to add things later on. And I'm just going in with like a little bit more, just a little bit more bronzer. This is so gentle, like it's such a serum. You know, it's like basically skincare. Okay, let us go in with our concealer now. Yeah, let's do concealer. Okay, so she, again, not overly concealed. I'm gonna go in with my, like she's not super like highlighted and bright. I'm gonna go in with my Kosas concealer, if I can find it. That's right here. In 0.5 neutral, which is a really nice match for like my skin tone. It's very close to my skin tone. It's not ridiculously bright in any way. So I'm just gonna use this in the areas where I want like a little bit more coverage. So for example, a little bit here around the nose. I'm just gonna do a teeny bit here. This area, I have a little bit of stuff going on. I want a little bit more in the center of the forehead. And then I'm gonna put a little here in the outer part of the eye. And then I'm gonna put a little bit down here, which you might think is like too far away from my under eye, but I really don't want to take too much concealer up underneath the eyes. Like you can really see the anatomy of her eye. She's not like perfectly blurred and highlighted and overly contoured, you know? So I'm gonna use my Danessa Myricks 3.0 Yummy Face concealer brush. I really like this brush. I'm just going to gently pat that concealer out. And you can see as we blend it out, this isn't like an overly full coverage concealer. It has like a nice coverage, I would say. But it's not like ridiculously full coverage. So it's just going to add a little bit more coverage and color correction, I would say. Like we're just getting rid of like the unnecessary redness. So like around my nostrils, I tend to get like a little bit of redness. Just adding like a little bit of coverage around my smile lines. Keeping this relatively low. And just like gently blending towards my natural eye color. For this look, you're very much like utilizing your features. So like I obviously have dark circles. I have pigment around my eyes. I'm gonna use that, you know? Zendaya doesn't seem to have that same pigment or darkness around her eyes. But if you want this to look, if you want to create like the effect of the way that this looks on her, on you, you want to make sure that you are following your natural features as always. So now I'm sort of like bringing it in a little bit. Just brightening up this inner corner slightly. And I may go in with a slightly warmer concealer in a bit, but again, I kind of want to just like reserve the right to do the least right now, because I don't want to overdo it. I don't think that that's terrible, you know what I mean? But I do have more pigment around my eyes than she does. And I like to recreate these as closely as possible. So, or get the effect as close as possible. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of brow before we start going into the blush. So for my brows, I'm basically gonna do exactly what I did in my the other video. Going between my two Model Rock Cosmetics brow pencils. So I'm just going to create a little bit of shape. I really, really love the shape that he creates for her brows. She has like relatively full brows and they sort of like come in quite a bit, and it really just like frames the face, especially for a look where you're not relying heavily on the makeup, the contour, the eye makeup, like all of those elements. You really want to make sure that you are not neglecting the eyebrows, because those are really, really going to frame the face for a look like this. So this is it Blondie or Blonde? Blondie pencil from Model Rock Cosmetics is going to be my initial fill. Okay, that's fine for now, for like our guide. And I'll finish off the brows later, a little bit later on. So now let's go in with the blush. Now, Ernesto used two colors that, I believe they were Prada blushes, quite saturated. Now, something that I really need you to keep in mind, there were a lot of people who were posting on social media, they were like, I don't want to have to buy these two Prada blushes. And I'm like, first of all, you don't have to, like, use what works for your skin tone. That's the biggest thing. Like, I don't have the same skin tone as Zendaya. So using those blushes isn't necessarily going to create the same effect on my skin. So you want to get as close to the effect on your skin as possible. So I'm going to start off, I really don't know. I have these blushes from Sochi that I think will be really nice. I think I'm gonna start off with this one, which is Speakeasy. I'm gonna use my blush 38 brush. And I'm picking this up directly with the brush, and then I'm just kind of patting it on the back of my hand so that I'm not going in with way too much. And I just feel like that's going to create like the nice like base color. I feel like he used a slightly, not that it was muted, but like a slightly more muted kind of like natural base color first, and then he went in with something much brighter on top. And I know he started on the apples of the cheeks, and it really became like a boyfriend blush type thing where he really brought it down. So I am going to start with just a little Like, regardless of the fact that she's wearing a lot of blush in this look, you don't want to immediately go in with like way too much blush, right? Like, if you watch the video where he was applying it, he didn't like just pile on so much blush immediately. So I'm really bouncing the brush off the skin. And I'm sort of going in like this shape. So we're sort of dragging down that boyfriend blush and then taking what's left over out. And then I'm gonna take that across the top of the nose. So this is very much a sun-kissed, like burnt, been in the sun too long, burnt look. So every time I pick it up on my brush, I'm patting it on the back of my hand. This is gonna be especially important for those of us who are like melanin deficient. Like if your skin tone is basically translucent, you really want to make sure that you're being judicious with your blush, even if you're going for like a blush heavy kind of look, okay? So bringing it down and then dragging it out. And then I believe he brought a bit of this on her forehead as well, above the brows. I don't remember. But when I look at her, I mean, this is a blush look, you know what I mean? And then I think I'm gonna take just a little bit of that under the chin, like under the chin, so that we have like a little bit of that glow. And then he went in with something brighter, which was like, it looked like a hot, like red, like an orangey red. So I think I'm gonna do that basically. I can't decide. I grabbed like a few Rare Beauty blushes. I also grabbed the Danessa Myricks blush in Golden Hour, because these are very pigmented, but you can also tone them down by quite a bit. This is Joy from Rare Beauty. I might use this just because it's like, I think closer to the effect for my skin tone. You know, like that's already really, really bright on my skin tone. So again, picking it up with the brush and blending it out on the back of my hand. This is gonna bring a little bit more of that warmth and like a pop to the cheeks. And I know he focused it right in the center. And I believe a little bit more right on the top of the nose. Isn't that pretty? I feel like there's a little bit more up here, but it might just be highlighter. I'm just bringing a little bit of that color onto like my collarbone right here, so that my face doesn't look completely disconnected from the rest of me, you know? Because she honestly looks like she has that sort of like color and warmth throughout. And then I'm gonna take a little bit, just like whatever is left over on my brush, and just run that. There's a hair tickling my nose and it's so tickly, hold on. That's actually one of the worst feelings. Okay. I'm just gonna take that through my crease, because when I look at her eyes, it doesn't really look like there's anything on it, but I see in her crease, I see like this tiny, tiny bit of warmth, which I feel like is a little bit of that blush just sort of taken through the center, you know? Like it's not super obvious. Okay, I'm gonna go back in with my sponge that I applied my foundation with, and I'm just gonna go around the edges of everything to make sure that there are no harsh edges, and everything is just sort of like seamless and blended together. If you went in a little heavy-handed, it also helps to just kind of like tone things down. Like I feel like I went in maybe with a little bit too much blush up here around my temples, or the tail of my brow. Okay, I did the lightest amount of spot concealing. Like I really didn't do much at all, but I do have like a dedicated video to my spot concealing technique up here, if you want to see that. Now I want to set my face with a little bit of powder. So again, everything is very like lightweight except for that, like it's blush heavy, right? But everything else is very, very lightweight. So I actually have been liking this Cloud Set translucent powder from Kosas. This is the shade Sway, translucent Sway. I believe it's the lightest shade. And what I like about this is that it sort of like maintains that glow, but it does set the face, and I don't want anything like overly matte anyway, you know? It's also not like, depending on your skin tone, super brightening. For me, it's not. So I'm just gonna use this rougher brush. I don't know what it is. It's from like one of these fancy collections. I don't know, with like the cherry blossoms. You know, it's one of the fancy ones. I think I'm gonna do this for like underneath my eyes as well. So again, keeping the coverage everywhere, just like very, very light. So I'm gonna go back in with my Danessa Myricks brush and just make sure that I'm blended. And I decided not to go in with any more concealer just because I sort of like the way all of this looks. Like I do find it to be very flattering. I'm gonna start underneath my eyes and just take this in the center of my face to sort of like tone down any, you know, stuff that looks too dewy. I want to make sure that I am setting. But mostly just like in this area, in the T-zone, you know the drill. But I don't know if you guys saw her outfit change later on. Her face looked pretty dewy. So she actually started off looking a little slightly more like satiny in the center of her face before the outfit change. Oh wait, I didn't blend. But that glow was really coming through later on. So she really was not mattified, you know? Like she looked set for the red carpet, but later on, she had some, you know, some gloss, some face gloss coming through. So focusing in the center of, oh my God, I have a couple hairs that are just like, and every time it touches here, it's like tickling my face. My eyes, tickling my eyes, obviously it's touching my face. And then just because I have some like breakouts, like tiny breakouts here where you can like see texture, I basically always do a very gentle set of that, because if it's too dewy looking, it just really emphasizes. So I like that. I like that powder. I think it like maintains a really beautiful like glow to the face. And I'm not going to take it anywhere towards like the outer perimeter basically because I don't feel like I need it. Have I lost anything as a result of the powder? I think I'm going to go back in with my blush brush with nothing on it and just sort of re-emphasize this center area. This is really the like the focal point. I don't want to lose that. So just bringing a little bit of that definition back. Okay, I'm just gonna dust that on the top of my lids, and by that I mean the powder. Just hopping back and forth. Yeah, that's really freaking pretty, dude. This whole look is just like really freaking pretty. It almost looks like she has a shimmer on her lids. I can't really tell. It's like certain photos where it looks like she has almost a gloss. I'm gonna finish off the brows first before I start like theorizing about any of that stuff though. There's definitely an illuminator involved in all of this. Okay, so I'm gonna set my brows with a little bit of soap. As always, Pears soap. Brushing down first. And then I'm gonna brush them up. And my spoolie is so, I didn't clean it before doing this. Like I was gonna wash my brushes yesterday, but I didn't. So you don't need this much soap on your spoolie. It's just built up. Don't judge me. I'll wash it today, I promise. I'm gonna straighten that part. Okay, I'm gonna wait for those to set and just do my mascara. It looks like she doesn't even have, I don't even know if she has mascara on, but like her lashes are at least a little bit defined. Not really her lower lashes, but at least her top lashes slightly. So I'm gonna do like, I'm literally just gonna press my lashes with my lash curler once. Just at the base. So the base itself is slightly lifted. And then I'm gonna go in with my Lisa Eldridge mascara in black. And I am just going to focus this right at the base of the lashes. So I'm not even gonna pull it upward. And you could use a brown if you want. It literally looks like maybe just the base of her lashes, if anything at all. And then I'm gonna grab, I have this little guy that it's not named or anything. I think I got it on Amazon or maybe I got it on Yes Style. I'm just going to feather the ends of the lashes in case I took any out too far. Like any of the mascara out too far. Because it kind of just looks like her natural lashes. But like her natural lashes look like they have a bit of a curl. And mine do not have a bit of a curl. So now for glow. It does look like she has a bit of glow on her face. At the very least, I see this glow in her inner corner. That looks like a little bit of an illuminator. And to me, the tone of it and the finish and everything reminds me very much of the Lisa Eldridge Butterfly Light. So I'm gonna take a very, very small brush. This one from Refer, I believe it's from like an old collection, but anything that looks like this, anything that's like that, you know what I mean? Just so that you have a good amount of control over where you're placing it. I'm just going to use this to sort of like create a halo in that inner corner. So it's like here, and then it looks like it might come up a little bit. And it's just this like ethereal glow that just makes the center of her eyes sort of light up. And then there are photos where it looks like something is catching the light just underneath her brows. So I'm going to take like literally the smallest amount of that and just place it under my brow. And then I have to say, she's got at least something going on her cheeks. Like there has to be some sort of like glow happening on the cheeks. There has to be. So I'm going to use that same highlighter. It is intense because it's like very much a Vaseline replacement, like an elevated Vaseline. If you didn't know, this is from Lisa Eldridge's collaboration with the estate of Marilyn Monroe. And And Marilyn used Vaseline on like the high points of her face to really create that like glow look to her skin. So I am going to just take a little bit on my foundation. Do I want to use my foundation? Because I don't want to like dampen the blush. I'm gonna use my blush brush, my 38. I'm gonna pick up Butterfly Light and I'm gonna put it on the back of my hand first. And then I'm just going to focus this right here. So just pressing into the top of the cheekbone right here. What I don't want is for the highlighter to steal the show. Like, it is very much the blush. So what I want is to like kind of catch the light as we turn the face. But that blush is still like, when you're head on, you're just seeing this beautiful like flushed look. All right, I'm still waiting for my brows to like fully set, so I'm gonna do the lips. Just blotting my lip balm off so that it's not, doesn't take anything away. I feel like what I saw him do was use the blush on the lips. But she's definitely got like a little bit of structure there. Like, I feel like I just saw him in the tutorial just diffuse a little bit of blush on the lips, but there's like a lip liner. Like her lower lip is defined. So you guys are gonna be so bored of this, but I just can't stop using Etch. And I feel like when I look at her lip liners, always the effect of it is what Etch does for me. So this is Katie Jane Hughes Lip Stilo in the shade Etch. So I'm gonna actually start off with the lower lip, because her lower lip feels contoured. And maybe he put a little bit of bronzer around the lips, and that's what I'm thinking of. But she's not overly like overlined or anything. So I'm gonna keep this on my lip line. And then I'm just gonna kind of pat it. That's pretty. And now, I feel like I have to mix a custom color here, because what I'm seeing on her lips just doesn't look like anything that I necessarily have. And that's just like a little too hot orange. So once again, sorry guys, I'm using like Reffer brushes that don't exist anymore. These were gifted to me by Reffer. They're like from an old amazing collection. And I just love, if I could have this as a lip brush, like a little bit smaller, it would be perfect. I'm gonna use this. And I'm gonna mix, I'm gonna do some crazy shit. I'm gonna take a little bit of my Rabanne pink lipstick. This is Rabanne, famous lip color in the shade Ghosted, 310 or 318? 310. I'm gonna put a little bit of that on the back of my hand. And then I grabbed that Rare Beauty blush, which was in the shade Joy. And I'm, like, if you look at the reference photo, like, do you see where my vision is? Does it make sense? I'm picking up a teeny bit of that blush and I'm mixing it with that lipstick. And this just makes sense to me. It just makes sense. Do you see what I'm seeing? And then it actually feels like she has a little bit more of that like pink on her lips. So I'm on like the center. So I'm just gonna grab a little bit more of Rabanne. Place it in the center of the lips. Might even be like a little bit of like a concealer or something. Do you guys see the vision? Do you see what's happening here? And then I'm just going to, yeah, right there on the lower lip. Right? I feel like that's kind of perfection. And Like anyone who says otherwise is dead to me. So now it feels really weird not like fully curling my lashes. Like I feel like I'm not done. I want to finish off the brow. So the brow I do feel like is such a hero of this look. I know it feels like it's all about the blush, but because there's so minimal structure happening on her face, if you leave your brows completely undone, now this is your preference obviously, like how you like your brows, do it. But her brows are quite structured and they really frame everything. So like we did an initial fill, but the look doesn't feel finished yet. Like it feels a little undone to me. And if you're not paying attention, you might look at this and be like, no, your brows are fine. Like the look, it's very pretty, but it's not finished. So now I'm gonna go in with Model Rock Cosmetics Ash Brown, okay? And I'm really, really going to focus on the arch first and extending the tail of the brow. Okay, so we're building up that contrast now in those sparse areas, especially at the tail of the brow, because typically that's where you want the most definition. But what I love about her brows is that they come in quite a bit. Like they are defined very much on the top. Look at this difference that happens when I do this versus this side. And then they sort of diffuse down here. So it's a little bit more structured on the top inner corner, which is just so funny because it goes against like basically everything I've always thought about my brows. But look at the difference that just made in our look overall. They're actually even a little bit closer. Do you see that? Whereas this side is just a little bit, it's sort of floating. You know, it's sort of floating, but adding this like more structured detail, it like creates a finished effect to the look. I think I might extend the tail a little bit more. I just want to look at another reference. Yeah, just a little bit more. And it's still soft. We're just using pencils. I'm not using any brow pens here. But that really is such a finishing touch. Okay, so this side versus this side, huge difference. Maybe the lips are a little more saturated. Am I overthinking? Nope, you know what? I'm gonna put like the teeniest little bit of the blush in the center. Yeah, that's better. It's like a little bit more saturated. Okay, now we're done. Now we're done. All right, guys, that's it for this makeup look. I hope that this was helpful. As always, remember to tailor things to you. In essence, this look was very much a no makeup look. Flushed, think flushed, okay? The blush is going to steal the show. But you want to make sure that you're considering those other small elements, like a slightly defined lash line, maybe with just a teeny bit of mascara, maybe taking a little bit of that blush into your, into the crease or a little bit onto the lid or something, making sure that you are finishing off the brow so that we're framing the face. Those little tweaks to the lip. And remember that like your skin tone is going to be a big player here, right? If you don't have the same skin tone as Zendaya, then you might not want to use the exact same blushes that she did. If you are, use a very light hand if you're as pale as I am. Yeah, I think I said this in my other video. I always tried to sort of like recreate the essence of an outfit. And I feel like we like at least got a little bit close with the earrings, but like there was no way that was gonna happen. I thought it was impossible with the other dress, but with this one, I was like, where am I gonna get some angel wings? You know what I mean? Like, that fabulous? Anyway, love, obsessed, beautiful. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what celebrity makeup looks you want to see next. If I don't hear from you, then I'm just gonna probably do an updated Marilyn look. But yeah, I want to do more of that because I really enjoy it and I think I'm good at it. Thank you so much for your feedback on Instagram and all the blah, 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 whatever. And I'm going to see you in the next one. You better be there. Okay, bye.